Hello and welcome back to the Freedom Podcast. And I'm here with Josh Cook from Cape Town, our pastor there. And we've got Dave Thomas from Charleston, our pastor over there. And both of these guys had their launches this weekend. And we thought it would be great to get them on and hear a bit more about it. How you doing, guys?
Let's go.
We are so pumped over here. We're still buzzing. Just living off the high of Sunday. It was amazing. Just incredible day. Such a celebration.
Come on. And so both of you guys are in schools. And I wonder if we could start off by telling a little bit of the story about how you guys got your venues, because I know for both of you, it was a wrestle. So Dave, I wonder if you could kick us off and just tell us a little bit about where you guys are and how it came to be.
Yeah, so we are in this amazing elementary school, which is a primary school for the Brits listening. And ever since we moved to Charleston, we wanted to be in this area called West Ashley, and we really wanted to be on this particular road. And so, last year we thought we had a venue nailed down in November. It was all going well, kind of like coming to the point of being able to book it. And get it sort of sealed. And then about a week or two before Christmas, they basically let us know, hey, no, it's not going to work out. And we're literally Christmas week. And it's really challenging to be able to kind of book anywhere. So this West Ashley area is amazing. It's brilliant cross section within the city, but there's very few venues that we were looking at. And so I'm frantically sending emails to every single person that I possibly can think of. I won't even say some of the venues that I considered. But I sent about 14 emails to different schools in the area, and I didn't hear back from any of them until I realized I was emailing the wrong people. I had to email the district. And so I got in touch with the district, and this great guy, he called me. He was like, right then, come on, let's get you a church. And I was like, oh, this is positive. And so then I'm trying desperately, because I wanted to be able to sleep over the Christmas break. I was like, can we go view? Can we come in? And I got an email on the 23rd of December going, nah, school's closed. So we ended up going and viewing the venue the second week of January. Now, note that we're launching on the 25th of February. And then we had to wait probably about another 7 to 10 days for approvals from teachers and districts. So I think we got it finally over the line in mid to end of Jan. So it gave us about 4 to 5 weeks to get ready.
And with all your promotional materials and things like that, they need to be printed like that week, don't they, to be then distributed if you're going to do mailers. So it was down to the wire to get a confirmation.
Yeah, we literally, I think we got the contract, I think the day before our mailer needed to be finally submitted and our digital ads needed to be finally submitted. So I was sort of chasing, going, I apologize for chasing, but we're about to invest a lot of money in this marketing and I really need to know, give me an answer. But then honestly, it was really amazing because the guys that we've been working with, they've been absolutely phenomenal. Our custodian was just brilliant. And again, it was a bit of a mad push, but it was amazing to see the way that God opened up the door exactly where we've been praying. And we could have compromised on it, but God came through for us in it, and it was brilliant on Sunday. It worked fantastic.
Come on, yeah, it's a fantastic venue. And Josh, I've also been on the journey with you, and it's funny because both of you guys almost had paralleled journeys in terms of like almost the timeline of when you started getting ready the church to launch, and then you both ended up being launched on the same Sunday, just almost coincidentally, which is quite incredible. But Josh, give us a little bit of the context of your venue and how that journey's been, because I know it's super difficult to get a venue in Cape Town, right?
Yeah, it was really challenging. I think we started conversations around July time with yourself and Rose about looking at making a transition from the suburb we were in to a different suburb. And we started to pray around different areas. We knew from the start that we wanted to go into a school. We wanted to partner with a school, bless the learners, bless the staff, bless the community. And so we started reaching out to schools. And similarly to Dave, I think it was about 40 different schools that we reached out to. And just there was nothing, and so we set the deadline. We said by the time we come back to the UK for the charge, we need a venue to start working it all out. So hearing Dave talk about end of January is stressing me out. My goodness, David. But I was like end of September. I was like, I need a venue, and we didn't get one. So I was like, okay. So we share with our leaders mid-October, and we say, guys, we're going to pray and fast. We need something by the end of October. And so the week we shared with them, we start fasting and praying together as a team. And then 2 opportunities come up with different schools. So there was a primary school and then the school that we're now in. And so we reached out to the principal. We sent a letter and we had a really positive conversation with one of the staff members. And then straight away, the principal came back and said, no, sorry, it's not a goer. And I was very grumpy for the next hour because I was like, man, I just felt like this was it. So I went back then an hour later. I was like, and I basically addressed all the reasons that the principal was unsure about. And an hour after, I had an email from one of the staff and they say, hey, can you come in? We've got some ideas. And I was like, oh, I don't know if you know, but the principal has said no. And she said, no, I've talked to the principal now. We'd love you to come in. I said, okay, great. So I went in the next day and we start talking and they say to us, look, actually, not only is there a school hall that we'd love you to rent out, but there's also a house on the property of the school. And if you and your church can renovate the house, we'd love to give it to you as your full-time office. And so within 24 hours, we went from no to here's a house. And so it's been amazing. And I just want to give a particular shout out to Luke McGowan, one of our team who has overseen the project of renovating our house. Because whilst we've been trying to make this new church plant into a new suburb happen, we've also been doing this big renovation project on our new offices, and the Raleigh team, 20 of them from Freedom Raleigh, came over to help us as well to get the offices ready. And it was an amazing blessing on Sunday. Because we're also using that house for our younger kids, now our 1 to 5 year olds, and the parents dropping off their kids in that space. They saw a jumping castle or a bouncy castle, as we might call it there. They see this renovated space, safe environment for the kids to play in. We've got our own garden space there. And they had the best time. We had 75 kids on Sunday. And they were so blessed by seeing what we've been able to do. So it was an amazing story. So we were working then with the school governing body, and we managed to sign the contract early January. And we're just so excited to partner with the school, amazing girls' school in the southern suburbs of Cape Town. And we're just excited to be able to work with them, bless the community. But that it was a really miraculous journey from nothing to sharing it with our leaders, starting to fast and pray. And that week we got the school. And so we're very, very excited about the next weeks, months and years to be able to partner with them.
Come on, that is awesome. And I think when we hear that story and hear about how you guys pressed in with prayer and saw that breakthrough coming, it's so inspiring, because you just think about, this is not just like, oh yeah, it's just you kind of make a few phone calls and it all just comes together. You guys had to contend for this. You guys had to come and see it come to pass. And I think for both of you guys, you might have been in different countries, different cultures, but the faith and prayer journey was paralleled. It's like, this is not just crystallizing, or it's not just a phone call. We've got to contend for this. But then obviously Sunday rolls round and you guys have this amazing launch. But I just wanted to rewind to about 12 months ago. If you think about where you were at a year ago, because none of us knew that we were going to be doing this within 12 months. Like, God's done quite an amazing thing in a short amount of time. But where were you guys at in terms of a venue? Where were you meeting? How many people were meeting with you? So just give us a bit of context of where the church was.
So we were, where were we 12 months ago? We were in a suburb called Salt River. We'd been gathering together. So the church in Cape Town, we started 5 years ago. So 2019, February 2019, it started, been gathering in this venue in Salt River, and we could probably max out in that venue about 80 to 90 people, and build a great group of people, and an amazing community. But I think the reality was there was a ceiling to what we could see in that space at the time. What about you, Dave?
And I think even getting to visit your space, Josh, just a few months ago before you moved out, it was excellent. You've got, air conditioning. It really was fitting for the size that we were at.
Right.
And so when it was starting to talk about, right, we're going to get a vision for something more, and we're going to go from having everything set up for band practices and midweek meetings for our Sundays, and we're going to withdraw from this safe place that's convenient, and we're going to go and take this huge risk. That was a big thing for you guys to lead everyone through. How did everyone kind of receive that as you pitched it?
It's a great question. I think interesting. I think there's something in the culture of our church. People love big vision. I think that's true of most people, but I know it's in the there's something about our people that there's an excitement and an energy when we can get behind something bigger and scarier than maybe. And truthfully, I still feel some of that. I'm looking at the season ahead, and I'm like, man, this is big. This is scary. We got to believe for more. But what's amazing is I think the people of our church, I've seen people who were kind of engaged in our church, giving some, and I've seen them be completely transformed by this vision over these last few months, giving their lives in, giving up hours and things that I wouldn't dream to ask of someone, but they've just done it because they love our church and they love the vision. And so what's interesting as a leader is sometimes I feel really hesitant to ask more from people, but actually people are desperate to be asked for more, because it fulfills something of a purpose in them. And they're crying out, we've been talking about this whole your place, your people, your purpose idea. People are crying out for their purpose. And so what's been really encouraging to see with some of the people I was hesitant or nervous, are they going to come with us during this transition? Some of those people have been the most engaged, the most vocal, the most excited about it, which has been super, super encouraging.
Josh, just give us that example of the guy who had been coming along to the church, and he was involved in production, right? Just give us an example of how that guy owned the vision, because you had to install some equipment into the school.
Yeah, and I just, again, shout out to our production team. It's not been a simple job over these last 6 weeks. They have been installing all of our projectors, projector screens, all of the cabling, all of the speakers. That's been a massive amount of work. And one guy in particular who I just shout out to, and he's one of these guys who never wants to take any credit and just feels very embarrassed. So I'll do it on the podcast for him instead. But Shane Moses, amazing guy. He came into our church about 18 months ago. And Shane married to a woman called Mildred, who's joined our church. Their son, JD, is in Freedom Kids, and they're just such a great family. And so we got to be a part of their wedding about a year ago. They got married. And so Shane's been a part of things for 18 months, and Shane's been coming along. He's great. He's so much fun. But Shane was yet to join a serve team since being in our church. And so, and Shane, for a living, does lots of different big events, works with speakers and installs equipment. So Shane heard that we needed to install some of our cabling for our equipment. So Shane came in 2 days during the week with some other people to help install it. But we didn't have quite enough time. And Shane wanted to make sure that it was all installed by Sunday so we could have it in time for Growth Track. So he said to his friends who were helping him out, hey guys, we're going to work through the night. So he messages and he's like, if we can show up at 7 p.m., can we just work through the night and get it in? I was like, well, I don't know. I'd quite like you to sleep, Shane, but I mean, we can ask the school, we can reach out. So we reach out, the school were okay with it. So they show up at 7 p.m. They leave at 5:30 in the morning, having installed it all, worked through the night. He then travels. He lives maybe, takes him about 45 minutes or so to get home. So he travels back home, sleeps for 30 minutes. And then he knew we had Growth Track and we had all these tables that we were storing in our office. So he then comes back for 8:30 so that he can help roll all of the tables back to the hall and set up for Growth Track. And this is a guy who's just such a deep love for our church, but has discovered his place in the church as well. And so just amazing guy, and celebrating him and his willingness to throw himself into the vision has been awesome.
Come on. It's amazing, isn't it? And Dave, give us a little bit of context for where you guys were at 12 months ago as well. You'd just been in the country kind of 4 months or something like that, 4 or 5 months. What was it? What did it look like 12 months ago for you?
Yeah, no, so we moved over, obviously, Saz and I and the kids, and we put it out to Freedom Church. Hey, who wants to come and help be a part of getting Freedom Charleston, now Courageous Charleston, up off the ground. And we had an incredible response, but obviously getting over here is challenging. So we were on our own, and we had 2 incredible couples, Miranda and Joe, and Noah and Kez. They were coming over, but we were just, I think this time last year, it was just Joe and Miranda who were with us. And so we just started, hey, well, we're going to do something. And we just started doing evenings at our home. This time last year, I think the highest we had on a Sunday was 8 in our living room on a Sunday night. And it was funny because obviously, massive shout out to all of our fire starters, going out, stepping out in wild faith in those moments is absolutely, inspirational, the level of faith that our guys have. But for us, we also knew there was something that wasn't kind of the plan that we'd had in how we were going to start the church. We'd ended up having this miraculous quick move over. But it was interesting because Josh Kirk and Rose Snozel both separately were praying for us, and they both gave us these words that said, I know it's crazy, but I just believe your team is already there and your team's already on the ground. And it was kind of wild because it was like, Rose and Josh, I both trust their ear for the heart of God, but we had no frame of reference. And so we're like, well, we'll just start. But there was just a real hesitance for people coming into our home in the evening. I think it was kind of mixture of culture also after COVID. And so this time last year, we were just sort of starting to look for a cafe or a bar to gather in or something like that. And we were actually, this time last year, we'd agreed to start in a cafe. So we were going to be beginning in March. We were going to be starting to do sort of evening interest events. And 5 days before we were meant to start there, the cafe pulled out on us. And so we had to start again and look again. And so we ended up getting this office space, which was a real amazing miracle of God. Great position, great size. And it was interesting because the week that we started in there, that was the week that you and Rose came back from our first sort of real connection with ARC. And so we paused, as soon as we started, we paused. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, if you're looking at like week for week, I think we were about 8 people, probably only half of that actually really committed, no money in the bank. And I only mention that because of the miracle that we saw God, over these next couple of months, providing for us to be able to launch the way we were. So yeah, night and day
Absolutely
difference
incredible.
between now and a year
and
ago.
Dave, you mentioned briefly there about, you went from being freedom to courageous. I was with some of my team who came from Raleigh on Sunday, and they were a bit like, oh, what's going on with, courageous? Because I guess they had not heard this episode of the podcast. So give us a little bit of context for people who don't know, why you guys are courageous and not freedom, but you're still part of the Freedom fam.
Yeah. So when we pivoted and we said, hey, right, let's go all in with, partnering with ARC to launch our churches. And so Josh and Meg in Cape Town, one of the things that ARC were talking about was just one of the principles within planting church in Ark is don't plant a bush under an oak tree. In other words, make sure there's room, there's space, and eliminate the barriers. And there's actually an incredible church here called Freedom. They planted about 13 years ago. Their pastors are amazing. They actually sowed financially into Courageous Church, and which is just amazing. And what was interesting is as soon as we got the office, we got our website up and running, we got all these sorts of things. We worked hard to get up the Google searches and whatnot. But what we found was because Freedom, Charleston, who was already here, done such an incredible job, had such an amazing presence here. We were talking with people, and it was a bit like being in that kind of shadow of the oak tree. And actually, we just thought, do you know what? I think God said, like, we need to create some room here. So we talked as a leadership team, and it's interesting, even way back in 2019, end of 2019, I remember us being in a DLT meeting, and it was only about 5-10 minutes of that meeting, but we said, I wonder if there will be a time where our family of churches may end up having, other names within it, a bit like the tribes of Israel, all one nation, but, tribe. And so when that, the two combinations were like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to do it. So we pivoted, we prayed about it, we deliberated. I think it was probably one of the hardest decisions because it's something valuable. There's something powerful in it. And so, yeah, we launched as Courageous Church, and it's been amazing, really, honestly, to actually see people's response even to the name here, but also for us to still be part of, not all part, but like truly integrated into the Freedom fam. So you're going to see Courageous Church at the Cave. You're going to see our leaders at the Charge. We're 100% the Freedom family, but just very excited to be pioneering this part of our Freedom Nation, forward here in Charleston.
Come on. So, guys, I know that there were people all around the world that have been praying for our churches that are launching in Cape Town and Charleston, and they were just so buzzing to hear. And like everyone's like, watching on social media. I must have checked my phone for Josh's text, I don't know, 50 times as I was kind of on the way down. I was so excited to kind of hear the news over there, and obviously I got to be there in Charleston on Sunday. And I know there's people listening to this and be like, Josh, just get to the launch, yeah? What happened? Tell me the details. So guys, tell us a bit about what happened. Josh, you obviously were first in the time zone, so let's come to Cape Town. Talk to us a bit about, the feeling of like, you're anticipating. What time did you guys start? 10:30 was it, or 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock. 10 on Sunday morning.
Yeah, so you're
Yep.
It's like, 9:45 in the morning, 9:30. How are you feeling? What's it looking like? How's everything come together?
Do you know, it's something I remember Chris Kopuk once said, which stuck with me. He said, the only time I'm concerned is when I haven't covered something in prayer. But when it's covered in prayer, I feel really peaceful. And going into this service, I really felt like we'd done everything we could. We'd invited, we'd invested, we'd prayed. God had opened the door for the venue. We'd thought about everything. We'd done our 21 days of prayer where our church just prayed so much. We spent a lot of money on marketing. Like, we just did everything we could. And we just had this, like, it's amazing. I was actually talking to one of our other team about it. Like, in a way, I feel like we should have been more like stressed out than we were Sunday morning. But actually, I was just like, whatever's going to happen today is going to happen.
Yeah, that's great.
And
I love that.
And one of the things I said as well to our team on Sunday was, hey, guys, today's the wedding day. We've got a whole marriage ahead of us afterwards. Like, today's going to be awesome. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a great celebration. But after today, we get to go and actually do the thing. And I think that's how we framed the day. It was like, whatever happens, happens today. So I think that was how I was feeling leading up to it. And the other part of it for us, I think, because we've been meeting as a church for a long time, we stopped meeting like in November as proper services because we'd gone into launch team gatherings. So I was just so excited to get back to doing church. was like, I can't wait for worship.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the
Yeah.
word. I can't wait for our kids to be served. And so there was also that part of me as well that was really just excited. So I had an expectation that people would come through, and I didn't know what that meant. Were we going to have 200 people, or were we going to have 600 people? Like, I really didn't have a good grasp of it. And but I think the thing that was just so exciting on that kind of 9:45, 9:50, 9:55, just to see people that we'd never met before, we didn't know them, they heard about us online or wherever, and to start to go like, these people could be part of our family. These, it was just incredible to see. But there was a real, obviously, it was exciting. It was such an excitement, but there was also a real peace, I think, about the whole thing. Just knowing it's like, we've done all we can do.
Awesome.
God's just going to do something now. Let's see what he does.
Come on. So great. And Dave, what about you? How? Because I remember us talking about the last few weeks that you had the rehearsals and actually things had run over. You didn't even get a chance to really run through the service the week before, did you? So I turned up at I think 7:45. You were starting at 9 a.m. and it was not chaotic at all. Talk to me a bit about what it was like, for you guys and the build up to that kind of before church is beginning.
Yeah, and just quickly before I do, just want to honour every single person in Freedom that's been praying for us in Charleston and in Cape Town. That similar kind of, you have these moments every now and again where you can literally feel being carried by people's prayers, and it felt like that. But yeah, we did not have a smooth kind of week before. We had 2 rehearsal Sundays. The first one was amazing. We're in the space. Everybody's like buzzing. The second one, we're like, this is going to be great. We're going to do a great run through. And we just hit some hurdles. We didn't even do a worship set. We didn't check the TVs. We didn't do we never did anything, any hosting from stage, nothing. And for anybody that's been involved in church planting, or you're on a production team in one of our locations, you'll know how important that is. It's even more important when 80% of your team have never run a service. Our band came together less than 2 weeks before the launch.
They
so
were
that
brilliant
Sunday
as well.
was meant
they
to be.
Did great, Dave.
Yeah, they were great. They were amazing. And just a quick story is like I've been trying to connect with musicians, and I was trying to find my unicorn, aka a drummer, and I thought I had it sorted, and then it kind of fell through, and I was like, oh God, what, come on, and I was at the point of like, I was starting to text some other pastors saying I might need to like draft in one of your drummers, and then Saz gets this phone call out of the blue. From a young guy called Ryan. He said, hey, I've just found you on Facebook. I'm a sound tech and a drummer, just want to offer my services. And he's like, what? And I said, can you meet for a coffee in an hour? He was like, yeah, I can meet for a coffee in an hour.
This is crazy.
Yeah, he's absolutely mad. And he's a great young guy. Love Ryan. But yeah, so our rehearsal wasn't great. And so on the week before the launch, we got the band together and the production team together on the Tuesday night and the Thursday night, and we had a worship night on the Wednesday. But then, yeah, it was amazing, really, because the numbers were incredible, the responses were incredible, but just how great it worked, and the team stepped up. And Josh was talking about it earlier around like feeling bad of asking too much of people. It is a hard thing, but when you've known some of your guys 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're like, hey, I need you to get to the parking lot at 5:30 in the morning. I had one couple wake up at 4 a.m. because they live an hour away, and they got up at 4 a.m. to drive down to be there at 5 to 6, ready for loading. Yeah, just nuts. And just credit to my guys leading through on production and worship, because we talked through the team. We did multiple like setup run throughs on Thursday. We packed it all away, set it up, set the timer. Right, we got to go. And yeah, we were ready to go inside an hour, which when you're loading in to a school, you know, with a lot of people that have never done it before. It was wild. So again, yeah, just felt that grace of God. But we did 2 services. We did a 9 a.m., which for any of the Brits, for example, listen to this. Yes, that's an early time to do church. But it's different culturally over here, particularly in the summer, because it's so hot. It's so hot. I'm not looking forward to August church loadout. I'm going to need to take 3 or 4 outfits. I think the sweat is going to be real. But just quick last thing, you know, we the way we set up our space, we really obviously want it to feel, you know, intimate, no matter how many people were there. So we set out 100 chairs. We had 250 ready to go, but we set out 100. And as we're going through the run through, that was the first time I was just sort of going, Lord, please bring people, because yes, there's peace,
no
and
guarantees.
grace, but when you're there at 8:45, you're thinking, is anyone actually going to come? And you're thinking, and I think for me, even like as a father, you know, my 4 kids, they're of an age. Taya maybe not so much, but certainly the older 3 and definitely the 2 eldest girls. You feel like this thing of like you're stepping out, and your kids are going to remember this. And I hope, and it was interesting because the night before Adelaide went to bed, and about an hour after going to sleep, she comes down and she says to us, "Hey, Mum and Dad, I just had a dream, and I felt like God came and said to me, He's going to fill the room."
Wow.
And you know, she said, "I had a dream, and God said, I'm just going to fill the room." And I'm on the one hand, I'm like, "That's incredible! Oh my goodness, my daughter hearing from God." And then on the other hand, I'm thinking, "Please, Lord Jesus, fill the room. Don't, you know, just please, because and you know, as a pastor it matters, as a father it's more important. You know, I've got my little girl there like believing, and
I
they
love
just
that
start
though.
coming in,
Childlike
and they
faith.
start coming in. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. And
I was stood
it
out the
was
front.
beautiful. It
I
was
was stood out the
beautiful.
front of the building, and I was doing a bit of greeting. And you know, Saz asked me to get involved. She said because a lot of our people, like, they've never done this before. But Josh, you know what this is about, so
Yeah.
can you just get in the mixer there and just get alongside people and just greet them, and it was great. And you know, as it was getting to 8:40, 8:45, there were the parking lot was filling up. We filled the first one with just volunteer cars. Then the second one was virtually full at maybe 8:50, and I remember at one point like 7 cars coming almost like in a convoy. It was like, it looked almost like they were like coming with the president or something. It was like this whole line of cars all coming down this road, coming in, and you know, like that. This is the only reason you're coming down this road is you're coming to the church because there's nothing else there. So it was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? We then had to open up the third parking lot, and this was the 9 o'clock service. And they were showing up, weren't they, Dave? So maybe, guys, just give us a little bit of a feel for what, I know, Dave, you did 2 services. Josh, you kind of packed them into one because you've got a big space there. Give us a bit of feel. How did those events go? What did it feel like in the room? What were some of your kind of reflections on it? Josh, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, one of the things that when we were looking at doing this launch, that I was a little nervous about was our worship team, because we'd had a more stripped back, I guess, version of worship up to that point. And we knew we wanted to go bigger. We wanted a band. We didn't have a band. And so it was like, okay, let's see what happens. We met a guy in the park in November. We're like, hey, do you want to come to our interest night? I heard he was a bassist. So he came along. And then we had some other people come and join. We had a university student come along, found out he's a keys player. It was like, great, let's go. And so all that to say then, worship was incredible on Sunday. Like it was so sounded amazing. I'm there and I'm like, I can't believe this is our church. This sounds awesome. I love it. The lights look great. The team did amazing. And so it just had such a good feel to it. And I think that one of the things I was really we're so excited about was our kids. Like our kids team did a phenomenal job. The feel of our kids, I mean, and the detail that our kids team thought about, like the way that they checked in, they had menus and everything printed for parents. They could know what it's all going to look like, FAQs on a web page. Like they just did so much to help parents feel like their kids were being taken care of. And the kids had so much fun. We had so many of those stories with, like, bless them, 4-year-olds just kicking off screaming because they were having to leave. It's like, that's exactly what you want. You want them to love it so much that they're begging their parents for them to stay. And so across the board, I think, from our kids to our hospitality team afterwards, we probably had about 80% of the people stay afterwards to hang out and have a coffee, and just got to chat to people and get to know people. So it felt great. It really felt like it felt fun. It was exciting. There was an energy in the room. There was a lot of people responding whilst I'm preaching. Like, that's great. You're all excited. It just felt like, for many of the people, even, it felt like these people were part of our church. I was like, I don't know you yet, but you feel like you belong. You feel like you're part of the family already. And so it was such an exciting vibe on Sunday morning.
That's brilliant, mate. And just give us a little bit as well, some of the, you're preaching, you're in that moment, and you're coming to the response. You've shared the message and you're asking people to respond. What was that moment like? Because I know for us, when I was in Raleigh, the first 4 years, I couldn't really tell you any salvations or people coming to Christ that we could see in a very tangible way. We had lots of people growing in their faith and people making decisions over time, but not almost many tangible moments. I don't know what it was necessarily like for you guys in Cape Town up till the launch, but I know that Sunday there was a big moment, wasn't there, as you came to the end of the message?
Yeah, it was huge. You're building up to that moment, and I think you can feel it when you're preaching. You feel in the atmosphere. You just sense, God, you want to do something here. And we've been praying big prayers for that moment as well, but it was so powerful. So I'm leading up to the response moment. I pray through the prayer and I say, hey, if you just prayed that with us, for the first time, raise your hands and lead through that whole moment. And, oftentimes in the past, we've had a number of different moments where, hey, I see your hand. That's fantastic. But straight away, you just see people, just hands shooting up just across the room. And you can't help but get emotional in that moment, because
it chokes you up.
It does, because this is why we do it. This is what it's all about. Our vision. Why did Meg and I move the other side of the world, give up jobs, give up lives? It's to connect people to a life-changing relationship with Jesus. And so you see people stepping in that moment to that. It's unbelievable. So we saw 30 people respond to give their lives to Jesus on Sunday.
Thank you, Jesus.
That is, I've just context for those who are listening. I've known Dave and Josh as my pastors since, I joined the church when I was 10 years old. Powerfully connected to Jesus around 11 years old. This is literally what I've dreamt of from that moment.
Amen.
This is it.
Wow.
And so, but I think the thing that also moves me is to know that this is just the start. We're believing for so much more, so many more people to be impacted.
That's right.
But it was an incredible moment on Sunday.
I love that, mate. Dave, give us a little bit about Charleston and what that was like for you through the 2 services, seeing it all come together, what it was like seeing people come in.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was really, really, really amazing. And obviously we did a slightly different format with the 2 services. We had sort of limited time just within our booking, but it felt great. I think, even through worship, obviously lots of people there for the first time. And, and our serve team, our launch team, incredible, but still very young in the culture. One of the things that was a real highlight for me was just watching their faces. Many of them were stood at the back, because we ran out of chairs and, people and things like that. And just seeing the joy and the expectation. I led worship with the team for the first 2 songs, and the song before I preached, I didn't. So I walked round to the back and just seeing the team just beaming with this sense of, oh my goodness, look at what God look at what God's doing, was just moving, really, really moving. I got very choked up watching one of my daughters worshiping on the front row, just kind of like going from being in this little office with the kids going next door to a ballet room and with her mate from school next to
Wow.
her. It was just incredible. But the second, for me, one of the things that was interesting is I haven't preached for like 7 months, 8 months, something like that. And so, I can get up and talk, but there's a difference between public speaking and
Yeah.
ministering. A big difference in that. And I think the first one, it was like almost kind of getting back on the bike. And then the second time I was like, yeah, okay, we're back, let's go. And it felt amazing. But one of the cool things was we did our responses and in between the first and the second event, it was kind of like, it's kind of a bit chaos. You got, I don't know, 200 people there. People are leaving, people are coming, trying to make sure you say hello to people and stuff like that. But it wasn't until just before I got on stage for the second preach, I found out nearly 20 people gave their lives to Jesus
Wow.
in that first,
That is incredible.
Event. So it was insane. It was insane. And then I think one of the things that was really powerful is just also hearing how many people said this phrase, I felt like I'd come home. I felt like I'd come home. And, we didn't have the same sort of post-event thing that as you, Josh, with like 80% of people staying. Part of that was because we had 2 services and we had a bit of a turnover. Part of that's cultural. Part of that's how we set up the space, and some things were going to evolve for this Sunday. But hearing that people were saying that, and there were 2 ladies in tears in the first service, and one of them was in tears as she left, and we just got a quick chance to pray with her. She sent a message to us later saying, it's been 7 years I've been looking for a church home, and I've never felt home, never felt like, but today. And she said, I cannot tell you the difference it's made to my day today. So yeah, it was absolutely wild. I think we're excited to move into more of that ministry and move into that more. Those are our big 2 things, that we're going to be praying for, is to just grow that community connection after the event and grow that ministry impact. Really excited this weekend. We're going to be preaching that same message that you preached, Josh, on the Raleigh launch. And Josh, you preached all about Peter not being defined by his failure. It's going to be huge. We're going to be singing Who You Say I Am at the end, I'm chosen, not forsaken. I'm just excited to see that school hall moving more and more and more to a holy of holies place. So
Let's go.
It was buzzing, but it was just
Come on. Any stories from you, Josh, that you wanted to share from Sunday? Any kind of individual testimonies?
Yeah, I think one of the things that struck me was how many people. So it was actually quite difficult to get a sense of all those stories. We got a couple of them on Sunday, but we got to follow up them yesterday.
We're used to doing things on a smaller scale, aren't we? That you can actually kind of relate or connect almost everyone that's coming through. But then you do this, and it's like, this is out of my hands.
And I was saying to Christine, who's overseeing our VIP team, our Connect team now, I said, look, the main part of our team is going to happen Monday morning now. It's not actually a Sunday thing. It's much more of a follow-up Monday morning. And so then myself and 2 of our team, Christine and Willem, spent Monday morning going through all of our Connect cards. We had 110 people sign Connect cards, 65 of them wanting to do Growth Track this coming weekend, which was so exciting. So we started to kind of respond to some of these people and some of the stories that people were sharing of how many of them hadn't been in church for such a long time or had never been in church before. I think that was the thing that really struck me, was like, none of us here are wanting to start churches to transfer more Christians from other churches into. Like, that might happen a little bit, but that's not why we start churches. We start churches and we plant churches to connect people who are far away from Jesus to him. Whether those people have been in church before or whether they've never been in church before, we want to connect those people to him. And hearing some of those stories, and I just leave them anonymous, but just a couple of people who responded, I'll just read a couple of messages. One person said, thank you. I'm so grateful and thankful for everything. I committed to follow Jesus for the first time yesterday. I would appreciate all the help on my journey. The support is welcome. I can't wait for next Sunday. Another person who it was just a powerful message to show some of the context of people coming. So I'm going to be honest with you. I've not been following Jesus. I'm not even sure if I believe in Jesus. What I do know is for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been facing some tough times. And I know most of it is with my own doing. I struggle with a lot of things. A few weeks ago, I had an unexplainable feeling that I needed to go to church. I didn't listen to it and ignored it since I haven't been to a church in a good 6 years. The feeling came back a few days later and I ignored it again. Last week, I had a dream that I was getting ready to go to church. The next day, my sister told me about Freedom Church, and I decided that perhaps I needed to attend. And that's how I found myself there yesterday. I don't know what happens now or even what I should do, what happens. I hope this makes sense. And so just even to see some of the people who are stepping into our church and saying, maybe there's a chance. And so many other people, so many incredible stories. But we're just so excited to journey with some of these people on their journey with Jesus.
And what I love, Josh, about that one you just shared is that there's someone there who is, experiencing the Holy Spirit. They don't even know or understand what that is or how to explain it, but getting these convictions, getting this dream, and it's like, I just believe that's the result of your prayer and fasting. You did 21 days praying. It's like praying for the city. Like God is literally speaking to people, preparing the way. Anything else, Dave, you wanted to add before we finish?
Oh, mate, no, just I think just so grateful to G and H. I think it's, here we are, obviously all three of us and our incredible wives have had the opportunity to relaunch in, the last 6 months. But just so honored that this has been at the heart of the vision of our church since 1988 or whenever we started, with six people in a living room in Leominster. And, I think what we're seeing is also a huge result of their faith. Over nearly 40 years of sowing, it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, we're so grateful, Freedom, that you've been praying for us, praying with us. I know Josh and Meg will be the same. We're believing for an incredible week 2. I know we've got more people that have messaged even that couldn't make last week that are coming this Sunday. So yeah, please keep praying for us. Please come visit us. You can come see the church, but you can also get some sunshine, go to the beach, come over. It'd be absolutely awesome. But we so appreciate your support, Freedom. It's been incredible.
Come on. Anything else from you, Josh, as we close?
I think just similarly to Dave, actually, I was listening to the podcast last week with you and G, and I was just thinking about, like, I was one of those teenagers that G released. I remember the first time I got to preach in Freedom Church on what we called a Freedom Meet. It was a midweek gathering, and I was 14 years old. And the fact that G was, and I remember him asking me to do it, and the fact he was willing to bet on me and take a chance, and it was a chance, and it was a risk at times. And he's coached me, and he's pulled me back in different seasons, and he's pushed me forward in others. But the fact that G and H and their love and their care and their support, and we're seeing what's happening all around the world because they've said yes, and they've just released authority, released young people, released young leaders, is absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
And so I think I just echo Dave. It's just amazing to think that we've got such an amazing senior pastors who are leading the way here. And we're just so grateful for them, and know that so much of what we're going to see now this past weekend, but so much more to come. We've got the 72 ahead of us. So much more to come. So many more lives to be transformed. And I know that none of it would be possible without them saying yes to Jesus. So we're so grateful for them.
Amen. And I think even for me being in Charleston this weekend, one of the things that was super impacting for me was seeing these people running around with the lion on their shirts. I've never met them, seen them, and they were owning the vision. They were running with it. Just seeing your teams, Josh, in Cape Town work so hard and deliver, a huge operation, really, putting so much work in. Same in Charleston, so much energy. And I think that, it's the same for us here in Raleigh. Like we get the privilege and honor of leading our churches, and it's hugely humbling to do that. But wow, the people that God has sent to each one of our churches, that get around us, that rally around the vision, what it releases in
Incredible.
them, the way that they work hard, the way that they serve, the way that they run with it, the way that they've prayed with us and stood with us. And, you know, for yourself, Dave, some of these people have been around 8 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Like, they are so new into the church, and yet they found their purpose. They're running with it. They're giving.
Amazing.
It was an amazing thing to see on Sunday with yourself, Dave, and it was brilliant to see your team as well in Cape Town, Josh, when I was there in January. So guys, thanks so much for joining today. Thank you for sharing some of those stories. We cannot wait to see what God does this Sunday and continuing the journey from here on. Guys, we'll be back next week with another podcast. Thanks so much for joining. We'll speak to you soon.